Welcome to Broadcast Advocate, a podcast from NASBA, the National Alliance of State Broadcasters Association, which discusses latest news, trends, and stories impacting the world of radio and television. I'm your host, Dennis Lyle, President and CEO of the Illinois Broadcasters Association, but also wearing my hat from the Broadcasters Foundation of America today as one of the foundation's board members. In the next few minutes, we hope to acquaint you with the great works of the BFOA, its history and impact in helping broadcasters who find themselves in times of need. For some of you, this might be a refresher course in just what the BFOA does and has done for some 20 years now. And for others, this podcast might be your first introduction to this great nonprofit organization that specifically focuses on assisting broadcasters, keyword broadcasters, in need. I'm joined today by Ray Cole, a television broadcaster whose career spanned 5 decades. Prior to retiring in 2023, he was the longtime president and CEO of Citadel Communications and served on the boards of Iowa Broadcasters Association, the NAB, TVB, and ABC Affiliates Association. Ray was inducted into the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame with the class of 2023, but most importantly for our purposes today, he continues to sit on the board of the Broadcasters Foundation of America, where his tenure reaches nearly 20 years. We're also joined by BFOA's president and CEO, Tim McCarthy, a 32-year veteran in broadcasting with ABC, ESPN, including stints as GM of legendary station WABC in New York City, and then the GM of all ESPN O&O stations in New York, Chicago, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and LA. He's been president and CEO of the respected BFOA institution for some 4 years now. So Ray, let's start with you. With your 20 plus years of service to the BFOA, there's probably no one on the board today other than perhaps BFOA's chairman of the board, Scott Herman, to provide the history of the Broadcasters Foundation of America. So tell our audience about the history of the organization and, quite frankly, why BFOA can really make a difference in a broadcaster's life.
Well, the Broadcasters Foundation, Dennis, has been around for over 70 years. It was originally founded and known as the Broadcast Pioneers. And after a period of time, the name was changed to Broadcasters Foundation of America. But the overarching mission of the foundation stayed the same, and that's very simply to provide an anonymous safety net to broadcasters in need. Broadcasters who are facing an unexpected illness or the victim of an accident or other serious misfortune that leaves them in a position where they have acute needs that they otherwise might have trouble meeting. And we're talking about the foundation helping broadcasters who are really facing challenging and sometimes life-altering challenges. And we'll hear from a special guest here a little bit later who puts a real personal face on that statement. So it's been around 70 years. It's pretty amazing. I've served on, as you pointed out in your generous introduction, I've been involved with the BFOA for more than 20 years now. And I can tell you that it's very gratifying to see how we've helped broadcasters. We've helped over 1,000 broadcasters with grants over the course of the foundation's life. We've helped broadcasters who reside and worked in 45 states and territories. We've helped broadcasters who are represented by over 200 broadcast companies, some of them the largest companies that you would ever know, and some of them the smallest companies, radio stations and television companies that you probably have never heard of. And bottom line is the foundation has given out over $20 million in assistance in just the last 20 years. And it's just a terrific organization with an important, if not vital, mission, again, of providing a safety net to broadcasters. By way of background, you talked about the role you have, Dennis. The foundation's mission is supported and underwritten in a variety of ways. Number one, we just launched this week the annual Guardian Fund campaign. Those are contributions of a very personal nature from broadcasters and others who believe in our mission, the Guardian Fund. We have the Angel Fund, which is really centered around support from corporate entities and especially, in your case, NASBA. The state associations and the work that you do interfacing with state associations and the foundation through the Angel Fund is become of vital importance in recent years. And I just want to, on behalf of Tim, Scott Herman, our chairman, and the entire board of directors, thank you, Dennis, for the work that you do on behalf of our foundation, working with the state associations and enlisting their, again, vital support. In recent years, we've taken on an important objective, which is to increase our outreach. We want to not just raise funds for the foundation, but to raise awareness of who we are and what we do. And we've been doing that through a series of ways. We've started media mixers. These are informal gatherings that we've done in New York, in Chicago, in LA, Nashville, recently in Austin. We just announced one that's taking place next month in Washington, D.C., that the NAB will be hosting. And so we think that's very important to raise awareness so that people know what we do. And if they know a broadcaster in need, they know that they can refer those people to the Broadcasters Foundation. We enjoy participating in the State Leadership Conference every year. And when possible, we enjoy appearing and presenting our case to state broadcasting associations when they have annual conferences and meetings. And if any of the people listening to this podcast today are interested in a presentation by someone from the foundation, just reach out to Tim McCarthy, who you'll be hearing from later. And so that's a quick overview on the foundation, its history, its mission, and how we support the foundation on a going forward basis.
Thank you, Ray. And thank you for the nice comment. I really appreciate it, all the work that you do as well. I'm constantly impressed with the caliber of professionals seated at the table during our BFOA board meetings and how engaged they are in maintaining the vision and mission of the foundation. I mean, these folks have big, huge day jobs, right, Ray? And but when Tim calls, they answer and then some, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you agree with me, Dennis. It's an honor and a privilege to serve alongside some great broadcasters on our board of directors. And it is a who's who of broadcasting, both television and radio today. We're led by Scott Herman. We have an executive committee that's made up of Jordan Wertlieb from Hearst, Leo McCourtney, late of Katz Television, recently retired, Dan Mason, a past chairman and former head of CBS Radio, and others. But the networks are all represented. We're blessed to have Ray Hopkins from CBS just joined our board, but he joined other network representatives, Valerie Staub from NBC, Chad Matthews from ABC, and Jack Abernathy from Fox. And these are all people who, as you point out, have very, very busy day jobs who make a commitment to support the mission of the Broadcasters Foundation. We have companies represented from Nexstar to Scripps, radio companies like Beasley, and it really does go on and on. We really appreciate the support of the NAB. Gordon Smith was a long time member of our board. When he stepped down, Curtis Leggett stepped in, not only at the NAB, but as a member of our board of directors. John David, who works with us on the Angel Fund, you and me, Dennis, the retired head of radio at the NAB. Even though he's retired, he is a tireless advocate for our mission, and we benefit from that in countless ways. So to your point, we have roughly 24 members of our board. They represent small companies, large companies, network, non-network, associations like the NAB. Steve Lanzano is stepping down as the head of TVB at the end of the year. Long time member of our board, and many others, without whose efforts and time, not just time, but also treasure that they contribute to the foundation's mission, we couldn't support broadcasters in need the way we do.
Indeed. All right. Thanks, Ray. Tim, 4 years ago, the very BFOA board that Ray is speaking about named you president and CEO. charging you with the responsibility of keeping this organization the well-oiled machine your predecessor, the late great Jim Thompson, left you with. So talk about the day-to-day operations of the foundation, its work, how the grant process works, how you promote the work that BFOA does, and last but not least, how the foundation fundraises to keep its mission alive.
Sure. Thank you, Dennis. And once again, I want to reiterate what Ray said. Thank you for your work on behalf of the foundation. You've been tremendous. We are a small operation in New York City. We're in the Katz or iHeart building. We have 5 people working at the foundation, so we're a small operation. We're very much like a radio station in many respects, that we have to create the environment. We got to sell the environment. We got to build the environment. We got to do all those things that you do at a TV or a radio station, and come up with the ideas that work. But the well-oiled machine, and as you said, taking over from the great Jim Thompson, who I love dearly and worked with for many years on the other side, was an honor. Jim was tremendous. But we have a full plate in terms of going through the grant process. Now, let me explain the grant process a little bit. It's a very thorough process that we go through. When someone applies for a grant, we get a tremendous amount of information. We get medical records. We get financial records. We follow up with old employees. We go through a whole process that takes usually over a month just to approve one person. And then we bring it to our board, which once again has to get approved again. So it's not we try to do it as quickly as possible, but we want to cross all the dot all the I's and cross all the T's in the grant process. Very important we do that. Every year we do a grant review where we go through every single grant. It takes almost a week to do so. We go through their history, we go through their financials, we go through their medical situation, what's changed, what hasn't changed. And we do that every the end of July going into August. And then we present that to our board, which once again has to get approved again for every single grant that goes out, whether it's a monthly grant or emergency grants that go out. So we go through that entire process. Another part of our day is raising money and reaching out to folks. So Ray hit some of it, but we raise money 3 different areas. One is through our events. We have 3 big events. One is our Golden Mike event in New York City, which is March 9th at the Plaza Hotel, where we honor a distinguished broadcaster who has given back to their community. We also have a Lifetime Achievement Award at that event, as well as our Spirit Award in honor of Phil Lombardo, which goes to a person or a business that has really been good to the foundation, has really been a supporter. The next event we have is our Phil Lombardo Golf Tournament at the NAB in Vegas. That's a fundraiser, but more of a get-together. It's always a successful, fun event. We always have great participation. And we also do our Leadership Awards in Vegas every year at the same time, where we honor leaders in our business. And that is a wonderful, fun breakfast that the foundation funds. It's a great get-together, and we usually have about 150 people at that event to close out the NAB. Our last event is our Celebrity Golf Tournament, which we just had a month ago, which we pick various golf courses in the area, always high-end places. We get about 150 people together. Celebrities come out and join us, and that's another fundraiser. So we have our events, which is one area. We have our Guardian campaign, which Ray spoke about, which are individuals within the broadcast world that want to give $50, $100, whatever, to the foundation. Our third fundraiser is our Angel Fund, which are corporate partners, corporations like Disney or CBS, whatever, that give us money to support the foundation. And as Ray talked about also, now we're doing these media mixers across the country, not to raise money, but to raise awareness to the foundation. One thing that's really important, our name says the Broadcasters Foundation, and some people think I have to be on air to get a grant, and that's such a misnomer. We take care of assistants, engineers, cameramen, the families of. We have some people who are in assisted living that can't afford it anymore. That's something over the last 2 years we've really started to focus on, because many of these broadcast, or those in broadcasting, I should say, that have gotten older and dementia and Alzheimer's slips, and they can't afford to go into facilities that they have to go in, and their family is getting crippled financially. So we're doing that as well. So we have the events, we have the grants, we have the financials, like our audit 990. One thing I want to bring up, which is really important, we have a rating of 100 with Charity Navigator, and Charity Navigator is the preeminent company that looks at 501c companies and how they spend their money. So 100 is the best you can get. All the dollars that we raise go back out after expenses here, all go back out to give out grants. So when you have 100 in Charity Navigator, that's a home run. That means you're doing the right thing and giving out as much money as you possibly can to those that need it most.
If I could add one point, Dennis, to what Tim just said, it's an important one that many people are not aware of. And that is, when we take on a grant recipient following the exhaustive review process that Tim described, we take that individual on and support them in perpetuity for as long as they can demonstrate a need on an annual review basis. We support that individual with sometimes life-saving support when they're hanging on by a thread on occasion. And I think that's very, very important that people know that that's the long-lasting impact that we have through grants. And the other thing, as Tim was talking, it occurred to me, emergency grants. What I was just talking about, we call sustaining grants. Emergency grants is a relatively new phenomenon over the last 5 to 7 to 8 years, where we send out checks to people immediately with a very, very expedited review process, following a hurricane, following wildfires like we've seen in California and other places, and other natural disasters, where we just need to help broadcasters get back on their feet. A lot of times these are natural disasters where we're helping broadcasters who are covering the story in their respective markets. And we send them $1,000 or $2,000 to help them with groceries and clothing and other items. And that's been a very, very impactful part of our mission in recent years. Don't you agree, Tim?
Absolutely. In fact, Ray, this week we had a broadcaster in Wisconsin whose house burned down. As young kids, no place to go. And we sent them a $2,000 check.
Yeah.
And as Ray said, it's becoming more and more prevalent with these hurricanes, Hurricane Milton, Florida, North Carolina, LA wildfires. We're there front and center sending checks out to folks who need it.
We help broadcasters. Remember, Tim, we helped broadcasters in Puerto Rico a couple of years ago. So I mentioned earlier, 45 states and provinces and so forth. The impact that has is really, really substantive in nature.
Well, speaking of that, Tim, I believe you have a special guest joining us this morning that can really talk to this from her heart.
Absolutely. We have with us, and very, very happy to have her, Terrie Cammarie. Terrie is the wife of Luke Cammarie, who unfortunately passed away suddenly. Luke was an employee of Hearst Corporation. And Terrie's been getting a grant for her family and her lovely kids. And Terrie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and about the foundation and what the grant means to you?
Sure, Tim. Thank you for having me, Dennis and Ray. I would love to share my story, and I would share it over and over again if I could, if it helped other families in need in a similar situation to mine, or like the emergency grant. The foundation is a lifesaver, a game changer for anyone that finds themselves not prepared for the life that has come to them, the rug getting pulled out from under them, however you want to say it. What happened in my story is my husband, Luke, very healthy, worked every day, loved the broadcasting industry. Just had some seizures out of nowhere, was rushed to the hospital, and they found a baseball-sized tumor in his brain. We had absolutely no warning signs of this, which is typical of a glioblastoma, which is the type of cancer he had. There is nothing you could do about it either. The survival rate and the cure rate is 0. Most people live about 6 months. Luke hung on for 2.5 years. He was a fighter, but every day of those 2.5 years, we were in medical treatment facilities. We were getting chemo. He was getting chemo every day. He was getting blood transfusions. We're also in a time of COVID where we had to change hospitals. We had to change states of the hospitals. We had issues with insurance, with all the different changes that were going on. Everything was a rush. There was nowhere close by that we could get care. So we had at least a 1-hour drive either way as our closest facility. And when you say your life has changed in a heartbeat, we toted the kids around with us to all these appointments. They could have been all-day appointments. They could have been week-long appointments. Our family's in California and the East Coast in the Midwest, nowhere in Louisiana. So we didn't have a choice but to take them everywhere with us, and or pay for childcare if anyone was willing to do that during COVID. But the Broadcast Foundation of America stepped in very quickly. A friend of mine through the industry suggested that we apply when Luke was about a year before he passed, about 1.5 years into his treatment. I applied on his behalf. We were accepted that following, after the board meeting. I'm not sure how that process works, but quickly, within months, and received our first check. That was when we had gone through our savings, we had gone through our checking, we were out of work, but still had a mortgage and a car payment and kids and travel expenses and medical bills. Right before my husband got diagnosed with cancer, my daughter was type 1 diabetic, and we almost lost her. She went into DKE, had all those medical appointments. So it's been a very rough road. And I could speak about the Broadcast Foundation of America for hours on end to share what impact they've had on our day-to-day life, which is anything from paying medical bills, covering our part of our mortgage, our groceries, our medical equipment, babysitters, you name it. It goes, every single penny we get goes back into trying to live a normal life with these kids that lost their dad. It doesn't make it go away. It doesn't make your grief go away, but it makes it so much easier to know that you have people supporting you financially, and how life would be so different if you didn't have that, if I didn't have that money to pay our bills. So what I think is most important in this podcast, at least from my position, is to let others that are listening know how important it is to spread the word about the Broadcast Foundation and the application prospect. When I was going through this, I applied at maybe a dozen other organizations. You don't know if they're legit or not. You don't know how long the process. You don't know if it's $100 or $1,000. We're talking good, consistent grant money from this foundation, that it's not anything you have to question. Your check comes the beginning of the month, every month, and you can count on it. I can't say I found any foundation when I was looking for extra money that even accepted me, let alone had a program set up the way that the Broadcast Foundation is set up to help people. So if you know of anybody in the industry, family members of anyone in the industry, it is so important just to send the website or share a story that you heard about, because it has changed our lives. And I think it's changed everyone's lives that they've helped. So please help those that need it when you hear of somebody in need. Thank you.
And thank you, Terrie. And it's amazing, particularly folks like Terrie and her family. We create a relationship with a lot of our grantees. I remember somebody sent me a letter about Briggs and, the award he got at school and all that. So we really pride ourselves on getting checks out on time, making folks feel comfortable, knowing that we're there for them, whether they're working in broadcast now or they left 10 years ago, that, bad things happen to good people, and we want to be there for them. And that's why it's so important, as Terrie just said, that so many people know that we're available and should find out and get more information wherever you are. Spread the word, let people know, because you just don't know when something could come your way.
Tim and Dennis, I would encourage everyone listening and watching this podcast to go to the Broadcasters Foundation website, broadcastersfoundation.org. There's a tab there that says Our Stories. And among the stories there is the story of Luke and Terrie. It's one of the most powerful, moving stories we've ever produced, but there are many others just like it. But please take the time to watch Terrie's story in her own words, what they faced and how the Broadcasters Foundation helped. And it'll be time well spent.
Well, and thank you, Terrie. We so appreciate you sharing your family's personal story. And thank you, Ray and Tim, for your contributions to this episode of Broadcast Advocate. For more information on the BFOA, as Ray just alluded to, whether it's how you can help or how you or a fellow broadcaster might be helped, visit broadcastersfoundation.org. And to learn more about the National Alliance of State Broadcasters Associations, visit our website, NASBAonline.net. My thanks to fellow NASBA colleagues Jordan Walton and Kyle Geisler for their assistance in producing and directing today's episode. I'm Dennis Lyle. Stay tuned for our next episode of Broadcast Advocate.